Alright guys, today we are starting lesson 3.5, which starts on page 461 in your iBook. It has to do with working with sets, okay? There's a lot of lesson vocab that we're going to focus on. So the first one is roster form, which is a notation or a way to write all of the elements in a set using set braces and commas. And we'll see an example of that on the next slide. The next vocab word is set builder notation, which again is another notation, another way to write a description of the elements in a set. An empty set is a set that does not contain any elements. There's actually two ways you can write an empty set. So if we're using our braces, an empty set would look something like this. Okay, it's just the braces with nothing in it. Or another way to write it is a circle with a slash through it. Okay, both of those indicate an empty set. And a universal set is a set of all possible elements from which subsets are formed. So if you have different subsets with different elements in it, the universal set would contain all of those elements throughout different subsets. And last but not least, we have the complement of a set, which is the set of all elements in the universal set that are not in a given set. Again, these will make more sense once we get deeper into the lesson and are using them. But for now, it's just good to be aware of the different vocab terms. So by the end of this lesson, we want to be able to write sets and identify subsets. We also want to be able to find the complement of a set. Okay, so for problem 1, we are going to look at using these roster forms and set builder notation. So the first one says T is the set of natural numbers less than 6. If I was to write this using roster form, I would write T, because that's the variable we're given, equals, right? And then I'm going to include 1 through 5 in this set. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Why? Because it tells us right here that it's a set of natural numbers less than 6. So we're not going to include 6. It's going to be everything less. So this right here is an example of roster form. Okay? All right, let's look at the next one. It says N is the set of even natural numbers that are less than or equal to 12. So this one I want to focus on practicing our set builder notation. So again, I'm going to start with N, okay, and I'm going to say N equals, and we're going to put in our little brace, X, an even natural number, comma, X is less than or equal to 12. Now this can be kind of confusing, so let's talk about it. N is the name of the set, okay? So that's why we have N equals. But now we have an X in there too, and X is going to represent any element in the set N. So I said X is an even natural number because we get that from up here, right? That are less than or equal to 12. So I just used that variable again, X is less than or equal to 12. So X represents any number within the set. The set name is N. Okay, I'm going to slide this up for a minute. If I was to write this, let me label this. So this is set builder notation. Okay, so this is the two different types of notation we'll be focusing on. So the difference again is set builder notation actually describes the elements, okay? So set builder notation describes the elements within a set. If I was to use the same word phrase and write it in roster form, I would have N equals 2, 4, 6, 8. I'm going to continue down here, 10 and 12. Okay? So this is roster form where it lists the elements. Okay? Whereas the set builder describes the elements. All right, so problem 2 focuses on using set builder notation to describe inequalities. All right, so our first step is to solve the inequality. The first one says negative 5x plus 7 is less than or equal to 17. So I need to get x alone first. I need to solve. So I'm going to subtract 7 from both sides, and I'll get negative 5x is less than or equal to 10. And then I'm going to divide by negative 5. Remember, when you divide by a negative number, you have to flip your sign. So I'll get x is greater than or equal to negative 2. Okay? If I'm going to use set builder notation to describe x is greater than or equal to negative 2, or to describe the solution of this inequality as a set, I am going to start with my variable. Well, I'll start with my brace, but then I'll put my variable in there. And I'm going to say x is greater than or equal to negative 2. Okay, so that's an example of set builder notation for the first inequality. Let's look at the second one. I have 9 minus 4n is greater than 21. Again, my first step is to solve the inequality. So I'm going to subtract 9 from both sides because my goal is to get n alone. And I will be left with 12. And then divide by negative 4. So I'll end up with n is greater than negative 3. If I'm going to write this in set builder notation, again, you're going to start with your brace, list your variable, and then say n is greater than negative 3. Okay, so just to do a little recap here, let's recall that a set is a collection of distinct elements. So a set is a collection of distinct elements. For example, we can have a set that includes M, N, O. Whoops, I forgot my comma. Okay, this is an example of a set. Its elements are M, N, and O. Okay, so those three things are the elements in that set. Okay, most likely we're going to use sets for now that include numbers. So we could have 1, 2, 3, okay, and 1, 2, 3 would be the elements of a set. So these are two examples. I also want you guys to remember that roster form is a way to write a set. So these two examples that I gave you are how we write a set out. Okay, that's roster form. Whereas set builder notation, is a way we describe the elements. Okay, so that's the difference between the two notations. Please remember to take notes while you're watching these videos. If there's anything confusing, you want to go back and re-watch it. I may or may not give you guys a little mini vocab quiz from this lesson, only because it was a short one and I really want you guys to know the difference between roster form and set builder notation. Come to class with any questions you may have, and I think that's it for now. Have a good night.